Well, a hot and steamy day for much of at least the southern areas of what we would consider the Northeast and into the mid-Atlantic states. We're going to take a look to see if there's any thunderstorm risk and any severe weather risk. SPC still says there is. Meanwhile, it's hot and humid across the south. We've got thunderstorms in the Gulf of Mexico that are going to bring heavy rains to coastal Texas and Louisiana. And we have the Labor Day holiday weekend. And that's all ahead of us tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Now, if you use the coupon code that we have,
Summer 2024,
you will receive on any purchase.
10% off.
Sorry for that little pause there. So I was looking at my good evening to you, by the way, and good evening to everybody on the chat board. Hope everyone had a nice day. I was looking at my stats for the month, Joe. Today is the 9th consecutive day of nighttime morning lows that were in the 50s. Got to 59 this morning, which actually I was a little surprised at. I thought we wouldn't get under 60, but we got to 59. And today is only yesterday and today, the only 2 days this month where the temperature here got to 90 degrees.
Oh, lovely.
I mean, it's a lot hotter down in Atlanta and Point South, but up here in the mountains, it's been at least where I am. But it's really been a delightful second half of August here. I have to say.
Well, it was really it was a humid day out there today here in the Hudson Valley. Now, for the most part, no precipitation has fallen yet, but I'm sure we'll be bringing up a radar and indicating there that a large area of rain and shower activity and embedded strong thunderstorms is off to the west. But it looks like, Joe, thanks to a frontal passage a little while ago, that a lot of the worst of that weather pattern is going to stay just to the south, or at least south of Interstate 287, down toward New York City and points south of there. If you are watching right now in a place like, I don't know, Poughkeepsie, New York, or Newburgh, New York, the worst that could happen probably is just going to be maybe a brief shower, or maybe a few raindrops, or maybe even nothing at all. Again, the main thrust of this area of precipitation is going to be passing, again, thanks to that weather front that passed on by a little while ago, more to the south of our immediate vicinity.
Well, you could bring up those radars, and while you're doing that, I will just say a big hello from both of us to everybody on the chat board tonight, and those of you who are lurking in the back. It's amazing how many people are lurking in the background, Joe. There are quite a few, some of them famous, a few of them probably infamous, but we welcome all here. Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays are off days for Joe and I. However, rest assured that if there were a serious weather situation, we would rearrange our schedules and add a show or two. And of course, we would let you know about it. But in case you wouldn't have heard about it, if you turn your notifications on, you won't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can do all of that. So are you ready with the radars, Mr. Rayo?
I'm ready. Give me the opportunity to share the screen.
Yes, indeed. We're going to do that, just that. And where is it? Okay. It's all yours. You're on the air.
And here we go. And this is the Upton radar from out of Suffolk County, Long Island, New York. And you can see that most of the time, we're not seeing much of anything, but in the final few frames of the loop, and this is a 3-hour loop, you can see what I'm alluding to, showers, and you can see some red indicating some embedded thunderstorm activity moving into the western sections of New Jersey from northeast Pennsylvania. And you can see the general movement. The general track is to the east and slightly east southeast. So it looks like the Hudson Valley will get just a glancing blow. As I said, I 287 is about here. So it looks like the lion's share of precipitation will be south of 287. If you live up north in portions of, well, let's say, especially north of 84 in northern Orange County, northern sections of Westchester and Putnam County, Dutchess County, Ulster, Orange County, Ulster, and Sullivan County. It doesn't look like to be that there's not going to be much of anything that's going to be happening this evening. Again, most of the activity passing off to the south because we had a cold front move on through quietly along about 5 or 6 o'clock this evening. And so south of the front is where all the sticky hot air is, and that's probably going to be where the thunderstorms are going to gravitate to areas, again, off to the south as opposed to the entire tri state metropolitan area. Let's check out Philadelphia. And in the Philadelphia radar, you can see not much is happening initially, but again, here's that activity that is pushing. Actually, it looks like, Joe, it's north of 78 here.
I wonder if you probably get a better shot either with the Binghamton radar,
Yeah,
perhaps, or the State College radar.
yeah, here's the
Yeah,
Binghamton.
there you go.
And you can see that it's basically a line. And just consider the weather front, the cold front, located just to the north of that line. And so the showers and storms are traveling parallel or along the front, again, moving on a general east southeast direction. And so it would appear that the folks who are going to be getting into some rather I don't even want to say nasty weather, but they're going to be getting into some precipitation. Will be again places in western sections of New Jersey or in the corner of parts of the northeast corner of Pennsylvania. Again, this active area passing mostly south of the immediate New York City area, and much of the Hudson Valley apparently is going to miss out entirely on it. Where else can we go, Joe?
Check out what's going on. Let's take a look and see what's going on in South Florida because um, the radars were a little bit busy with some showers and storms. Oh, you got some stuff right there in Western Maryland.
State College, and as Joe mentioned, somewhere around the Hagerstown area, Western Maryland, and also in the panhandle of West Virginia. Some rather active showers and storms. I'm not sure if there's any watches or advisories for this by the Storm Prediction Center, but you can see that the really active weather for thunderstorms is tonight, again, well to the south and well to the southwest of the immediate New York City area. You wanted to see Florida? We'll
Yeah,
take.
let's go to Florida.
This is the Melbourne radar, and you can see how um, a lot of the activity is pushing in from the ocean.
Yeah, it looks like it's maybe a little bit of some sea breeze front action there on the East Coast.
Right. And if you were along the Space Coast, here's Cape Canaveral, they're likely to be seeing some rain and maybe a bit of a rumble or two of thunder. Here is the other area of showers and storms on the west coast of Florida, and that continues on a east to west trajectory on into the Gulf of Mexico. In fact,
Let's get,
let's
yeah, maybe get a closer look at those on the West Coast.
And here you go. This is the view from Tampa Bay, Florida, Ruskin area. And you can see how the activity is again progressing west to west northwest into the Gulf of Mexico, moving right off of the west coast of Florida and on into the Gulf of Mexico. And here's that sea breeze activity on the east coast, pushing activity in from, again, the east coast of Florida. So, an interesting night tonight. And it looks like those who are on the West Coast pretty much have seen the maximum or the most activity because, again, a lot of the heavy activity now is off over the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico.
All right, hold your radars for now. We'll come. I'm thinking we'll come back to them in a couple of minutes. Um, and I just want to, release it. I mean, and then because I want to show a couple of maps, and then you can go back to a couple of radars in a second. Um, but
Okay.
that's one of the interesting things about tomorrow is that uh, a lot depends tomorrow on where you are as far as humidity relief. Now, you're going to get temperature relief. That's not the issue. But I just randomly, these are the forecast dew points, Joe, for 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. I'm sorry, noon tomorrow. And very interesting how, um, I kind of drew a line about where the low 60s dew points might be. So from this red line that runs from about Sandy Hook into northwest New Jersey and through northeast Pennsylvania, south of Binghamton and on into southern New York. From there, north and east, if you look up the Hudson Valley, if you look across Connecticut, Massachusetts, Long Island, dew points all pretty much in the mid to upper 50s. So that's going to feel pretty good. And when you combine it with temperatures in the 70s, that uh, will actually feel kind of nice. And I'm thinking in terms of sky conditions, maybe north and east of that line, I'm thinking along the lines of maybe cloudy to partly sunny, depending on what time of the day and what exactly is going on. But if you're south of that line, if you're in central and southern New Jersey, if you're in southeastern Pennsylvania, and especially if you're down in Maryland and in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, you're going to say, what humidity relief? Because the dew points in these areas are going to be in the upper 60s and low 70s, at least through noontime tomorrow. So it's going to take a while for some of this drier air. I mean, if you're up north of New York City, it's a no-brainer and a done deal. But if you're south of this red line, it's going to take the better part of all day tomorrow and into tomorrow night for some of that dry air to bleed southward. I don't think you're going to get dew points in the 50s, but you certainly could see your dew points drop down into the low 60s. The one upside is that for central and South Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania, temperatures tomorrow will probably be in the mid to upper 70s. So with the dew points so close, I'm thinking there's probably going to be more cloud cover here than anything else, and perhaps even a passing shower can't be ruled out thanks to that wind coming in off the ocean. But uh, thunderstorm activity should be minimal, if anything at all. But I just thought it was kind of interesting. Sometimes you're in the middle of the atmospheric war that goes on. So location is everything tomorrow as far as the dew points are concerned. And if we take a look, let's go look at the watches and warnings that are up. Oh, that was it. This is interesting. Just hit a refresh. There you go. So these heat advisories most of these are going to go away, obviously, for tomorrow, particularly the ones in New Jersey and the ones in Pennsylvania. They may still be around, though, for Virginia and North Carolina. The yellow area here in the Dakotas is a tornado watch that SPC has up. There are no severe thunderstorm watches up in the Northeast or in the Mid-Atlantic states with these thunderstorms that we showed you on the radar. So maybe, Joe, if you could just maybe pop up a radar up in South and North Dakota, and let's see what's going on up there.
Oh, all right. We'll do that right now.
Okay, and I will switch you back. Oh, yes, I'm learning how to direct here.
Actually, I think that's not South Dakota. I think it's more like Wyoming.
No, where the watch is. The watch is in South and North Dakota.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't see very much. I'm looking at the Bismarck radar right now. I will share that with you. And
Yeah, pick
oh,
up.
okay. All
There you
right.
go.
Everything suddenly, it looked very quiet, and then all of a sudden, everything flared up in the final few frames of the loop. That's kind of interesting.
Uh,
See here,
okay, there you go.
this is Bismarck, North Dakota, and look what happens in the final few frames of the loop. The last hour or so, they have a band of it looks like moderate to heavy activity, and that's probably where the severe weather is taking place in those deep shades of red. And it looks like it goes straight through Bismarck, from south of Bismarck to north of Bismarck, and again, it just suddenly, right before your eyes, suddenly develops. It kind of develops from south to north across the region, but there it is. There's that region that I guess the Storm Prediction Center was watching for, and it indeed has taken shape and has developed over the last few hours.
All right. Uh, okay, we can go back to our regularly scheduled programming here. And here's what it looks like on the wide radar view. And there are four working severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment. There are no tornado warnings. There was one earlier in Sioux County, but that's gone. Here's the wide view of the radar. We've got a lot of activity in the Gulf along the Gulf Coast from coastal Alabama kind of arcs inland in Mississippi and then back down into southwest Louisiana. Also seeing some showers and storms from the coastal bend of Texas between Houston and Corpus Christi, going back towards either side of San Antonio, and a few heavier cells to the west of San Antonio. Also, a cluster up in northeast Texas with some heavy thunderstorms. They're actually moving from east to west there. And we've got some downpour activity going on in parts of New Mexico and in Arizona. This is what it looks like on the satellite loop. A lot of lightning strikes with the storms that are in Florida. You can see them, or at least there were. They've diminished some in the last couple of hours, but back around 5 o'clock or so, it was really, pounding away here. And the storms that are back through the Gulf Coast and back to the Texas coast, those are going to be more big rain producers than severe weather producers. And a nice little swirl there up in Montana, some kind of upper low. And what is it? Whiteface Mountain? Whitehorse Mountain? Which one does that sounds right?
I
Well,
don't
anyway, either
White.
one, whichever one it was, it's been snowing there
Ah,
today in northwestern Montana.
well,
So
White Horse is in the Northwest Territories of Canada, so I'm not sure if we have a White Horse in Montana too. But
I saw some video of it, and I don't remember. It was one of those two. My memory is not what it used to be, folks. I have to remember. I have to remember to write the stuff down, and I even forget to do that. So this is what the Storm Prediction Center has for tonight. They still have this slight risk from southern New Jersey into Delaware, westward across Pennsylvania, and back through Ohio and Indiana. I'm kind of thinking that that's probably not really going to play itself out the way they thought. No watches are up. You see the tornado watch in the slight to enhanced risk area in the Dakotas, and then we've got the general thunderstorm activity from Texas to southern Georgia and down into Florida. Now for tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center has a marginal. They actually have general thunderstorms all the way up into the Hudson Valley tomorrow. I kind of find it difficult to imagine if you're going to have a northeast wind and dew points in the 50s, how you're going to pull that off. But um, that's their forecast. I'm just saying. Marginal risk: Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, eastern portions of West Virginia. We've got a marginal to slight risk from north central Kansas, northeastward up into Minnesota, where in Iowa and Minnesota and western Wisconsin, it becomes a slight risk and a 2% tornado risk. And day three, which is Friday into Saturday, we have a marginal risk: Michigan, the lower peninsula, northern and central Indiana, central and northeastern Illinois, and the looks like about the northern half of Ohio into northwest PA and a teeny tiny portion of western New York. I'm not I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do with this weather front come Saturday into Sunday. I think it's going to be one of these deals, Joe. If they put up a marginal risk for severe weather, I'm going to think it's probably going to be more for inland areas as opposed to the coastal plain.
yeah, okay. I agree with you on the fact that I don't really understand why SPC has us in a general thunderstorm threat or risk tomorrow. I agree with you that the winds coming in from the ocean is going to make for a rather stable atmosphere. I frankly think that tomorrow a lot of areas are going to be stuck with cloud cover, and there may be a spotty shower or maybe even a sprinkle, but I
Yeah,
don't.
I agree with you with that.
So that's my thoughts concerning the thunderstorm. That I think actually on Friday, what's going to happen will be that there will be some clearing, some partial clearing, but the clearing line is going to be more or less along the Hudson River. So if you live anywhere along the Hudson, anywhere to the east of the Hudson, for example, where I am, I'm in Putnam County, which is east of the Hudson, or where Dennis Cassia lives, who, by the way, Joe pointed out a little earlier that when we were looking at the Bismarck, North Dakota radar, that's where the Raccoon National Cemetery
Yes,
is.
of course. We have to always honor the Raccoon National Cemetery.
But if you lived in Connecticut, and they certainly could use this after what they've been through over the last couple of weeks, I think there's going to be more sunshine there as opposed to places west of the Hudson, where in Orange County or in Sullivan County, for example, they may be stuck with clouds and may also see a few sprinkles or light showers. That would be for Friday. So I think if as we finish out this week, the best that we can hope for some sunshine would be Friday. But again, location, depending upon where you are, you will either see not all that much, if anything at all, of the sun, or as you head east, where it seems the drier air is migrating to, you should get at least some partial sunshine on Friday afternoon.
No, I totally agree. I know I was making reference to maybe a more, what they're going to do with Saturday into Sunday with the next cold front, not tonight's, but with the next cold front, where
Well, my daughter is getting married on Sunday. She's got this big outdoor uh, get together planned Saturday afternoon. So she keeps asking me, "What does Saturday afternoon look like? What does Saturday afternoon look like? Can we have it outdoors?" And I've been telling her basically because of that frontal line that while the beginning of the day Saturday may look okay, that unfortunately as we get past noon or 2 o'clock on Saturday, the risk of widespread or increasing threat of showers is apparent into part of Saturday night. But then after that front moves on by Sunday, maybe a leftover shower and then hopefully drying out and clearing out for the balance of the day on Sunday.
I'm kind of on the same page with you with that. Rainfall, nah, not too much. They got half an inch for the next 7 days over New Jersey. They've got a quarter of an inch for much of New England, a little bit higher up in Maine, a little bit higher up in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York. Some patches of an inch and a half plus in western PA, uh, parts of eastern West Virginia, down through east central Virginia into eastern North Carolina, also in western North Carolina, almost to about me. These are 7 day rainfall amounts. And some heavier amounts in South Florida, up to several inches there. And of course, over the weekend and into Labor Day, with showery rains and heavy downpours and some thunderstorms in the mix for the Louisiana and Texas Gulf Coast. They've got WPC has got an area of 7 to 10 inches of rain in that yellowish section here that you see. Actually, that might be 10 to 15. If I'm reading this, if the colors I'm reading are correct. The yellowish area may be 10 to 15, and the brownish area is either 5 to 7 or 7 to 10. Well, close enough. You get the 5 to 7. No, well, whatever. Let's just say 5 to 10 in general for that area. And even several inches moving, finding its way well inland. Also in West Texas, an inch and a half plus there. Some three-quarter of an inch to an inch and a half amounts in the upper Mississippi Valley, a little bit less over the Great Lakes, and very little as far as activity out in the western states. So I've got the GFS up to see if the tropics awaken. And at least on the latest run, Joe, there's in about a week, something comes off the African coast, and the model tries to develop it a bit as it moves to the northwest. Doesn't really do much with it, and then it's gone. There's lower pressures in the southwest Gulf of Mexico, and that sort of brings some rain up to the Gulf Coast, but it doesn't really develop at all. And then I'm running this out now through 16 days, which takes us to September 13th. And there's not a tropical, models are not even showing, other than maybe hints of waves, no tropical cyclone development in the Atlantic for the next 2 weeks. I find that hard to believe. On the one hand, yet you would think how aggressive sometimes that these models get with tropical systems where they spin up category two and 3, 4, and sometimes category 5 hurricanes at will, especially in the long range. There's nothing. There's just nothing.
It really is amazing, and I really have not. I have not had a chance to so many crazy things are happening here. But if I had more time, I wanted to sit down and look over the last 20 or 30 years just to see where we were in terms of tropical activity on Labor Day or the 1st of September in past years. Because we always said that there's always at least one tropical system active on Labor Day, but it is so very, very quiet. It's really quite amazing, and one has to wonder exactly what's going to happen after the 1st of September, whether or not we're going to be getting into a pattern of rapid increase in activity. But for the moment, all's quiet on the western and eastern front.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking here at this is the 200 millibar to 850 wind shear, and in the tropical Atlantic, south of 20 degrees north. I mean, late this week, there's actually quite a bit of shear off the west coast of Africa there, so that doesn't really help it. And then it does get a bit better in terms of the upper air conditions. But north of 20 degrees north, there's this huge band of westerlies across the Atlantic. So that, pretty well shears apart the first system. In fact, there's a deep trough that drops down along 50 degrees west, which basically takes whatever tries to develop there in the tropical Atlantic. It takes it up west northwest right into this zone of massive shear. So it just gets totally ripped apart. And, just going forward, I mean, there's a lot of shear, there's shear in the Caribbean, both in the east and in the west. Gulf of Mexico's, not terrible. Winds do lighten up, but there's strong wind shear across the Gulf states and off the southeast coast. I mean, this is not exactly an ideal upper air for tropical cyclone development. So, um, I'll tell you right now, I said this last night and I'll say it again. If we don't start seeing, they've got this forecast of 17 to 24. Every day that goes by that they don't have a tropical system to add to those totals, that 24 is not gonna happen,
Right. They need 12 to get to 17.
which is
And,
still doable. I mean, if you get, you could wait till the second half of September and get six storms in 2 weeks. I mean, that's happened before, and you
yes.
could certainly get six storms in October. So that bottom number is still doable, but uh, that top number, it seems like we're at a point where I would think you would have had to have been at least up to the H storm in order to try to get to that 24. I just don't see how it's going to happen.
And Craig Carlberg on the chat board says, I still say no more than 11 total. You may be right too, Craig.
Yeah,
We'll see how this all pans out. Colorado State University, um, according to Rich Radmansky, I think lowered their forecast to 22 storms. That may still
that's
seem
still
like,
too high.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, if it winds up being subpar, there's going to be a lot of reanalysis. Somebody's going to need to figure out they're starting to write. I've seen some pieces about an Atlantic, sort of the Atlantic's version of a La Nina going on. And we pulled up the water temperature anomalies map, and you can't really see it on that because it looks like the whole Atlantic is above normal water temperature wise. It's just not nearly as extreme as it was back in June and early July. So the ocean has cooled believe it or not, the ocean has cooled relative to normal from 2 months ago. It's still above normal in most places, but it's not as above normal as it was. Of course, the article I read made it sound like the Atlantic Ocean had suddenly become an icebox. So whenever you see these articles that fly around, folks, you got to sort of dig around a bit because they're written by reporters who have no understanding of weather. Okay, unless it's an actual you know, it's a paper from somebody, reputable scientist that's working on something, and he puts out a paper, and you see it online. That's one thing. But when you
And
see these news articles, you got to be really careful about what you're reading.
And the reporter will say that. The reporter will say, I know nothing about hurricanes, but I am quoting Dr. So and so and or Professor so and so on their findings or whatever. That's all I'm doing is I'm just relaying what they have come up with. And I can see that. It's just that sometimes to add to the interest, or sometimes especially articles that appear online, they make it sound so, well, what's the term, clickbait.
Yeah,
They they want you to really come to that site, click on it, read it, so that they can get an extra, credit for that. And as I've been saying all along, ever since we went into the late spring, early summer, that's all I've been hearing is that, oh my goodness, this is going to be such a hurricane season. Oh, because of the La Nina, and oh, because of the extremely warm ocean water temperatures, we may challenge what we saw back in 2005 when we exhausted all the regular names and had to go to the Greek letters, and and it's nowhere near that. Now, again, as Joe just mentioned, we could see a flare up. We have seen in the past a sudden and rapid increase in tropical activity. Remember, the traditional peak of the hurricane season is September the 10th. And, indeed, from the 10th of September till mid October, we could see a sudden breakout of lots of tropical activity. But at this moment, it doesn't seem that it's likely, at least in the next 1 to 2 weeks.
And in the meantime, aside from the tropics, it does also appear, on the other hand, that this first half of September is going to continue this pattern that we started about 10 days or so ago with these big highs coming down from Canada with dry air. I mean, we've got the one for tomorrow and Friday. I mean, granted, that one's only going to make it so far south, doesn't get down into the southern mid-Atlantic states and in the southeast. But and of course, when we go through the next couple of days, I think Joe's analysis of Friday is pretty much spot on. Then we've got uh, Saturday night, so we're going to see the winds turn a little more southerly on Saturday. It's probably not going to warm up too much, although the dew points are going to come flying up back up above 70 in most places. The temperatures may only get into the 80s because I think we're going to probably see a lot of the area in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England having to deal with some cloud cover, particularly in the first part of the day. And then the front comes through with some showers and thunderstorms Saturday night. Looks like the day side, not much happens. But like, there could also always be renegade stuff that develops ahead of the main area. And I think that's possible Saturday afternoon. Then you get the main area Saturday night, which actually weakens by the time you get to Sunday morning. And then you just wait for the dew point front to go through sometime late Sunday or Sunday evening. And then in comes this beautiful 1028 high for Labor Day, which is going to be delightful. And that dry air is going to sink further south than the Thursday air mass is. And after that goes out, we'll probably warm up late next week and start to deal with shower and thunderstorm threat. But lo and behold, here comes an even stronger cold front for, we're talking about now September 6th and 7th. And a big high comes barreling down from Canada for this time of year anyway, all the way down into Oklahoma. I mean, it's got this would be a front that pushes all the way into the Gulf of Mexico and off the southeast coast if this is correct, and that brings more delightful air. In fact, we could even look at it from the standpoint of the dew point map. Look at this. This is like a bunch of runs in a row that we keep seeing this. We haven't had a September like this in a while, in a number of years if this plays out. So, dry air mass goes out. We get through the weekend. Here comes the air for next week for Labor Day. And, stays humidity wise, it stays comfortable for much of next week. Then you get ready for the next cold front, which has got dew points in the 30s in Minnesota and Iowa. And then that comes into the east and dry air all the way down to the Gulf Coast. I mean, this is not something, Joe, that we've been used to the last number of Septembers.
Right, you're absolutely correct. This really is something that I could remember from many many years ago.
Oh, when we were kids, this used to happen all the time.
Right, right. Well, it's going to happen now, and looking at the 6 to 10 and the 8 to 14 day outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center, they have the Northeast from September the 3rd through the September 11th in below normal, and also precipitation wise, below normal precip to near normal precip. So we're going to be in for a delightful, apparently, stretch of weather for the first 10 or 11 days of September. And the final hurdle to get there will be that front that'll be passing through Sunday night into early Monday morning. Once that comes on by, We'll have high pressure built in, set the stage for some great weather next week. Another front will come on by late in the week next week, maybe with a couple of showers, and then back we go to another protracted spell of dry and pleasant weather.
All right, how about some Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Surely, let's take a look. And this is something different, Joe. I did get a view of this from Scott, and what he is sending here. He said, "Let me get it here. Hang on." He says, "Because you and Joe enjoy old TV shows and movies, this Briller Jeopardy," and then he puts this in caps, capital letters, "exclusive for the chat board." So I guess you and I are out. Obviously, I'm out because I've got the answers in front of me. But
Right.
I guess you're out too. He wants to see if anybody in the chat board can answer these questions, and if they can't, then you're far better at this than I am in terms of especially movies that you may want to inject your own ideas.
Oh,
But
just real quick before you start, because now you reminded me of something I wanted to mention tonight. So I got this new cable channel. Okay, it's called the Justice Channel. So it's like all day long with these judge shows,
uh
except between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Perry Mason.
huh.
Anyway, so I got a channel I can go watch Perry.
And you
Um,
must be in your element.
yes, I am in an element. Okay, let her roll.
Okay, exclusive for the chat board now. All of you on the chat board, here we go. This is question number one. The category is movie box office. And the question is, what are the only two R rated movies to make over $1 billion? That's billion with a B at the worldwide box office, not counting inflation. What are the only two R-rated movies to make over $1 billion at the worldwide box office, not counting inflation? There are just two of them.
Okay.
Both R-rated,
Um, and you're not counting inflation.
not counting inflation.
All
That's
right.
correct.
So that pretty much would leave uh, anything that was done, before the year 2000 out of the equation, I would think. Maybe not. Maybe,
I
but
will, I will tell you that Donna Levessieur
yes.
has gotten one of them of the two.
Okay. So she said Deadpool and Wolverine.
Should I mention which is
Yeah.
the
I mean, if she got one of them, yeah. Go ahead.
Deadpool? And guess what?
Deadpool.
Deadpool, and guess what? Rich Rotmansky got the other, the
And that was what?
the Joker.
The Joker. Well, it wasn't the Cesar Romero Joker, though.
So Deadpool and Wolverine dated 2024 this year, and the Joker 5 years ago in 2019. Okay, so that's question number one. Here's question number two. What is the highest grossing animated movie of all time? The highest grossing animated movie of all time.
Uh, Not adjusted for inflation?
He doesn't say. I'm going to make the I'm going to assume that it's not adjusted for inflation as well.
I don't think it's Fritz the Cat, Chuck Cardillo. Um, well, you got a number of guesses here, Joe. All-Star 10X says Toy Story.
Nope.
Patrick Darcy says Lion King.
Nope.
Christinapedia, Johnny Sack, 77 both say Frozen.
Nope.
I mean, that is a weather picture, after all. Um, Paul Roman says Despicable Me.
No.
Is that an animation?
Will this help any of you? The date of the movie is 2024.
Oh, so it's this year?
It's this year, apparently, according to
Oh,
Scott.
then I'll never know. I'll never get it. Um, Tyler Fienga says Sing. Johnny Sack says Minions. Um, Northern Gray says It.
I'm still looking for the correct answer, but no one has gotten it yet.
Is how many words in the title?
Um, there are two words and a number.
Two
Ah,
words.
David Rico got it. Inside Out 2.
Ah,
Aha.
Inside Out 2. Oh, okay. Um,
The moment you have
All right,
all
so should
been
we move on to
waiting for.
number three?
as soon as the Joker's done laughing,
The grand finale, the climax of my performance, the zenith of my career.
now you can go ahead.
Here we go at number three. What's what is the highest grossing movie of all time worldwide? The highest grossing movie of all time worldwide.
The highest grossing movie of all time. Michael
World
McGuire says Titanic,
No,
and so does Christinapedia.
no.
And I'm sorry, was that adjusted for inflation or no?
I don't know. He mentioned that for the first question. I'll make the assumption that it is valid for all of the rest of the questions.
Um, and few people are saying Avatar.
And
Um,
those people who said Avatar
right.
are correct. 2.9 billion. And Avatar dates back to 2009.
Very interesting.
Here's number four. Number four is what is the highest grossing movie ever in the United States? Not worldwide, but just in the United States. The highest grossing movie ever in the US.
Christinapedia says I don't watch Marvel movies or movies like that, so that's why I get them wrong. Well, I'm with you. I don't watch them either. Um,
Now,
Chuck-
Vincent Croce has part of the answer, but that's not the whole.
oh, so we have to know which Star Wars.
Right.
Okay. Um, so which Star Wars, folks? Any idea? Because I've seen, I think I saw Star Wars. I saw the first Star Wars, and I think I might have seen the second one, and then I just got bored. Um,
I think movie 9, Star Wars. No, that's not the one.
All Star 10X says Star Wars 1.
Nope.
Donna Loversor says The Empire Strikes Back.
Nope.
The Force Awakens from Rich Rothmansky.
Yes. Yes. Can anybody tell me what and Jason Fox. So Jason Fox has the number and Rich Rothmansky has the title. The Star Wars episode 7, The Force Awakens. $936 million, almost $1 billion.
Wow.
And now, this surprised me. I really was surprised by the answer to this question. This is the bonus question. The actor who has appeared in over 50 movies and has the highest cumulative box office dollars. Again, the actor who has appeared in over 50 movies and has the highest cumulative box office dollar figure.
Hmm. Actor.
Actor, yes.
Okay. Um,
No, it's not Tom Hanks. No, it's not Morgan Freeman. No, it's not Donald Sutherland.
hmm. And it's not
Frank Ocean's Clint Eastwood. No. Harrison Ford, Maggie P. No.
Alec Baldwin. No.
Rich Rothmansky. I guess they would give you credit if you were on Jeopardy because you have mentioned the correct last name. Jackson.
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Wow, that's interesting.
$14.6 billion. Incredible.
And that's a lot of money.
It is.
I hope he got paid well.
Yeah.
That,
Well, let's look at it this way. He'll never have to worry about money for the rest of his life, probably.
mm-hmm, exactly. That's very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, we're going to do this all over again tomorrow night because we're going to be here to finish off the week before we go into the weekend. And don't forget, there's no show this Sunday. So if you send me, if you, anybody that sends me a message this weekend asking that there's a show this Sunday, I'm not responding. Okay, just want to let you know. The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use that coupon code, Joe Rayo.
Summer 2024.
And
Joe.
if you do, you will get
10% off. And thank you to the, according to my counter, 52 people who hit the like button tonight.
All right. Okay, folks, have a great night. Thanks for being here as always. It's always a lot of fun. And we'll see you tomorrow. Night, night.
Good night.